Welcome to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Jones. I am a certified personal trainer, and I'm here to help you achieve your fitness goals without pain. In each episode, I'll share tips and strategies that will help you stay safe and pain-free while you're working out. I'll also interview experts in the field of fitness and pain management. So if you're ready to learn how to stay active and pain-free, then subscribe to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast today. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Jones, and today's guest is Dr. Brett Hill. He is a chiropractor and entrepreneur speaker who's redefining how we think about posture, movement, and brain health. He's the founder of YourPostureProgram.com and Xperience Life Chiropractic, where he went from a 200 square foot room with no patients to a thriving clinic, and then took those same life-changing principles online so people can transform their posture from anywhere in the world. Through practical and easy-to-apply strategies, Dr. Brett helps people reduce pain, improve alignment, and unlock more energy and resilience by addressing one of the most overlooked root causes of modern health challenges, their posture. Dr. Brett, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate it. Nice to be here.
I feel like I should be sitting upright.
I love it. Yes, exactly.
Good posture. So for people who are meeting you for the first time, who are you and how did you end up specializing in posture, movement, and brain health?
Yeah. So just a quick synopsis of how I got there. Who I am is basically, I've always been involved in activity sports. Growing up, I played whatever I could. I grew up in a small town and, if it was available, I played in school. And so was always just involved in health and activity and wanted to go in and help people outside of just high school, planning to go to med school and thought, well, that'll be a great way, but realized, you know what, I don't want to just give a pill for a symptom and, cover it with another pill and realized that wasn't my setting and got introduced to chiropractic, how the body works and heals on its own and kind of it works with the system. And that resonated with me. And so went to chiropractic school and there I was excited to be like, okay, give me the best stuff. I'm going to take it and I'm just going to apply that. And I was kind of frustrated. I was like, what is this? Like there's a totally different avenues wherever I look. And I'm like, how do I know what's going to work the best? Because someone can go here and be like, that's not chiropractic because that's completely different what I see here. And I kind of struggled with that a little bit. So I ended up doing some more neurology studying with chiropractic. And it really drew me into making sense of how does this adjustment and this movement really impact that person to heal. And it gave me this better view of how the body is integrated and how we can impact people on a deeper level by not just focusing on necessarily where they might have pain at that moment, but the whole body. And so when I graduated, I thought, hey, I'm going to take this knowledge and apply all the different trainings that I've had into the way I practice and the way I help people and impact them. And I'm just going to start my own. I had a chiropractor that wanted me to work with him and take over his practice eventually. And it was kind of that great chiro. He's one of my mentors, but I just couldn't do the in, out, 1 to 2 minute adjustments. We'll see the same, for each time. And that wasn't me. And so I'm like, I'm going to create something different. And I did. So I started my own clinic with no patients, slowly grew and really just grew from referrals. And as I was trying to impact people to understand this concept of, well, where my head is positioned really affects my lower back or affects my knee and these principles that were related to posture, I started to formulate this program to understand really what posture is about, how it affects the core foundational aspects of our nervous system, of our strength in how we move, and made a program where it simplified it for people to get results. Everybody that does it gets results. It's awesome.
That's great. So from your perspective, what are the most common posture and movement faults you see in athletes? And how does it show up for us as pain or a recurring injury or performance issues?
It's funny with athletes, they can hide it a little bit more because, they're working out, they're strong, they've got all the muscle makeup to perform and really excel, but it allows them to hide the compensations easier and not recognize it. And it is harder to correct because they are training, usually sport specific, so intensely, their brain is getting wired to fire really really quick, really fast, and really powerful in that movement, in that pattern. And so these small compensations that they may have postural weakness in, and to be honest, the same patterns we see in athletes, we see in everybody, because everybody looks down at their phone too much, sits at a computer too much. So, and studies have shown even those that are working out, over an hour a day, being, getting good exercise, if they sit for long periods of time in their workday, say 8 hours or more, it's as if those effects didn't really impact them on that workout. Movement is key. And so we still see these same effects, because a lot of these student athletes, they're sitting in class a lot, they're on their phones a lot, and then they have these training workouts and things that are better for them, but they still have these patterns. And so as what we see, the biggest thing, and we see this with everybody, athletes for sure, the head is where the body will follow. So as their head goes forward, everything else is going to be thrown off. And that's the number one thing that we start with in our program, is getting people to sense and be aware of where is your head position. So the number one thing we see in their workout is a squat in losing their form and injuring their lower back. And the one thing that I train people on first isn't necessarily the biomechanics of where your hips and knees and all that stuff is. It's what are you doing with your head, which nobody thinks about. Nobody recognizes. Everybody's looking at the mirror to look at their form. But what happens is, whether we're standing and our normal posture is gone like this, or we're loading our body with a squat and then going like this, either way, it causes a decrease of our core activation and a collapse, specifically in our lower back, especially. So in a general sense, when our posture goes to, or we lose good control. And I think what's really important is to understand poor posture isn't just, slouch my shoulders, so to fix it, I got to just pull my shoulders back. That's not the answer. Posture is how we hold our body, whether we're sitting, standing, moving, running. It's the way that we resist gravity most effectively in a strong way without overusing the big muscles. So it's a lot more than just pulling our shoulder back like most people do. So the biggest thing is the head goes forward. These muscles right here tighten up. We lengthen these muscles, and to compensate for that, my hips, and you can't see in the camera here, but my hips are going to go forward. So we get this arch of the lower back, but it's just naturally compensating that way because of my center of gravity, and the sense of where my head is, my air canals and neck position. So when people load and they drop their head and they're looking at that mirror, they are way less
And their
strong.
booties are pushed out.
Yeah. And so if they just think of lengthening the back of the neck and then pushing that back, you're going to feel it engage all the way down the spine, especially in the lower back. So that's the number one thing I see. And the problem is, we can kind of help people do their squat, but this will then apply into football players or classic. If you're on the line and you're doing this and hitting someone, you're less strong, you're less stable in your spine, versus if you drop that head back, you drop your shoulders. Now you get that just instant activation of that lower back. But so that's the biggest thing that I see with posture. Now, posture relates to so many things. So we can see it affecting gait patterns, hip imbalances, plantar, like flat-footedness, plantar fasciitis, because as the head goes forward, the hips shift forward. Now we've widened our stance because our balance is poor, because we've shifted our center of gravity. So now we collapse more in the arches. We put more strain on the knees. Or if someone has a head tilt, then their shoulders start to tilt, and then they favor one side, and then they have a rotational pattern that they won't notice. They won't have a clue because they're new normal. Like I just had someone the other day where we took a picture and they're like this, and showed them, and I'm like, wow, he was surprised, no, my shoulders are quite tilted. I'm like, how did you not notice this? Like
Do you not feel that?
it's crazy sometimes. And it's because their brain has just adapted to daily, that's how they move every day. And that's how they've adapted.
That's crazy. And I know before you and I talked about the squatting and the fact that people's heads or their noses, as because I'm not you, so I don't know better. So when I'm talking to them, I'm just like, your nose is kind of poking out forward, and then your body does what it needs to do to adapt to make sure you can do the exercise, but that's not always in your best interest, right? Getting the
Exactly.
rep done is not the goal. It's getting it done with proper form so that you can do it over and over again without some kind of strain or injury.
Yeah, exactly. Just thinking of a patient today, actually, who we did a re-exam on his posture at the end of the program, and he's like, man, he almost started crying. Like he was just so excited. He's like, I can start running. Like I couldn't work out and run before. He's like, I'm running and working out again. He's like, my shoulder's not bothering me. I don't have any headaches anymore. He's like, I can't believe the change that this made when it was just I was just doing these simple things every day. And it really is, it's amazing the transformation that can happen, but it's about being aware of these simple little things, like where that nose is doing a squat. Well, then you start to notice other things that are compensating from that. And it just builds and builds and builds. And so when we can connect the brain to have awareness of what is actually firing, where am I compensating, and then being able to fix that, your core strength, spine, spinal support. It's more than your spine. It's the glutes, the hips, the pelvis, all of that. When it locks in and it really holds you strong, it's amazing how much power you can actually generate doing your squat or doing a bench or doing whatever that workout is. Your body is stabilizing way more efficiently and effectively. So it's a lot stronger.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start working with an athlete, what is your assessment process?
Yeah. So the first thing we look at, we take a static picture. So we take a picture and so we do this in office, but it's cool because with technology now we can have people download an app and it links to our clinic. So they can have someone take a picture for them of the front and the side, send it to us and we'll analyze it. We'll go over a video call with them on where they're at. And so from that gives us a lot of information. It's actually amazing. Just the other day to call with someone, I'm like, well, you might have, do you suffer from any of these things like a hip issue and tension in your neck and, ankle or foot problems? They're like, you just listed literally everything that I have. And it's amazing because posture is a huge window into our health, into how our body's been adapting to stresses and injuries. So we take a picture. Now, that's just one aspect. Posture isn't just when we stand up and that's the only time it matters. So we also like to do video of people doing a squat and a lunge. We test balance control, looking at how well when they balance, can they stabilize? But then when they close their eyes, do they sense their body? Is it efficient? Or are they like, whoa, I have no idea where I am? And they put their foot down. Because I've seen people who I'm like, and they're these athletes that they think I've got this. They're balancing fine with eyes open. You have them close their eyes and they're like, whoa, why can't I do that? It's because they're so dominant in their visual system. They actually don't have what's called good proprioception. So good body awareness of where everything is. And if their postural system is off, it's going to have to work a lot harder to maintain that against gravity because it's just fighting those imbalances so much. So balance is a big thing. And then those other functional tests that we look at, those are usually the first things that we assess, and we can slow it down and really see just compensatory patterns from that as our starting point to then create our plan or go from there in building strength. And, early on in practice, I found we were really dialing in this and that thing with someone. And there are some very specific things that we'll do. But what I found is if we skip over a lot of these fundamental things, if we find something with the head, I guarantee we're going to find weakness with the pelvic floor. We're going to find weakness with how they're compensating in their shoulders. And so we will find the same patterns on everyone because that's how the body compensates and it cheats. And so it actually becomes pretty systematic and pretty easy to pinpoint these things because we see it on everybody. It just follows the pattern.
I remember reading Dr. Pete Egoscue's book, and he talked about an athlete that had a wrist problem. And the guy was sure it was his wrist and did all these surgeries and everything else to do the correction. And after the surgery number 5 or 7 or something like that, it was crazy. When he went to Dr. Egoscue, they found out it was his shoulder, which of course links to the head. But as soon as they made that adjustment in terms of where he did because a lot of Egoscue's work is working on those teeny tiny muscles. I think more of the postural muscles than, like every workout we go to, people want to they want to see the big things. Especially North America, we're very concentrated on looking pretty, which isn't always functional. And that's why we have all the plantar fasciitis and all those little things because of the fact that we don't focus on those teeny tiny muscles. but he worked with this gentleman and got his shoulder back into alignment of where it was supposed to be on his body, and then the wrist pain went away.
It's amazing. And you're right. Like, we're so ingrained to think of, okay, what's that big thing? Like, we have this idea of instant gratification, or, what's the big answer to make all the money? What's the big answer to weight loss? I just got to do this one thing. We're just ingrained with that. And so, oh, well, my shoulder's bad. I'll just go get surgery and fix it when it's bad enough. Well, what if we actually just looked at taking care of our body, and those little things like posture? It's the small things that add up today, tomorrow, this week, this month. And those effects really affect us months down the road, years down the road. And our brain doesn't even notice it. But it starts to show up an injury here, then an injury there, then pain or weakness here. Yeah. Same sort of thing, where I had a client thought it was actually a neck issue, and the problem was a rib problem. But they told him, well, he couldn't work out anymore and he had difficulty with shoulder checking and driving. They're like, well, you probably won't be able to run anymore or do these things. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. The problem isn't the neck. We need to look at the whole body. And of all things, when we look at posture, the cool thing with it neurologically is it is foundational. It's one of the first things we develop as a child, as an infant. And there's a reason tummy time is so important for a child, because they develop the curves of their neck. They want to look forward in the horizon. It starts to stimulate this core postural system. And then they start to get on all fours, crawl. And once they're standing, so when we resist gravity with our spine and we're using our balance system, man, that frontal lobe, like, our brain is fueling so much information, and our posture system is so key for building that control and awareness, that everything else starts to develop, speech and control and big center learning. But foundationally, we have to have that postural system first. Now, as we get older, and as we, I shouldn't say older, I see this in youth all the time. When we're sitting in schools and we're looking on phones and we're playing video games, these are still doing all of those things. Mm-hmm. And it affects their posture. And then they go and are expected to perform. Well, higher risk of injury, higher risk of just poor performance in certain areas, because they're compensating throughout their day and day after day after day on these other things that everybody's doing. And excuse me. So a big thing of that is understanding we've got to get back into that foundational support in order to generate efficient power awareness and, honestly, good brain health, like good awareness of a lot of things emotionally and mentally as well that are related to our posture.
Well, and just in posture at its basic, right, which is just the body in alignment, you're more efficient. Your systems are working because there is no interference, there's no workaround, right? Because, like we said, if you're your neck's out front and your hips are tilted or whatever you may be going on, your body has to change its system to accommodate how off balance you are.
Even just look at a 2x4. If you're going to balance 2x4, you want the straightest one you can get. You get one that's nice and curved, all wonky. Good luck. That's going to be tough. It just makes sense. So in our system, in our body, if we're not aligning our spine, we're not aligning just that efficiency. Again, it's not just the spine, but neurologically, that awareness of where we should be aligned and efficiently using those muscles. It's going to be taking a lot more brain power, focus, and energy just holding us upright against gravity when we're not aligned.
So is there one thing that somebody can do at home if they already know? And maybe they just want to do a little something and it's not something significant. They're not experiencing a lot of pain, but they want to start running again. And they do notice they have a little tilt in their shoulders, or they feel like their booty's protruding a little much because they've got a little tip in their pelvis. Is there an exercise that we should be doing, or exercise or stretch? I don't necessarily mean stretching will help, but is there a way that we can start being more conscious of our bodily alignment?
You betcha. And Dana, this is something if your listeners want, it's something I do offer for free, is just 5 minutes a day doing 3 simple exercises. And we show them in the video because it's a little hard to describe and tell people. Just posture isn't as easy to correct as you might think, because one of the exercises we give people is laying face down and lifting their head and then bringing it behind their shoulders. It sounds really easy, but if people go to the gym and they try to do that on their own, I guarantee they won't be able to do it with the right activation that we need. They'll just lift their shoulders up and extend the whole upper body. So that's one in the video. The other one deals with the pelvic tilt, and the third is balance. And so I recommend, go to that link. If you provide it for them, they can get that for free. That's a good starting point to just start to connect their brain to these simple things of the head, the core, like the pelvic floor, and balance. Those are the starting ones we give patients in our program. Now, if they were to do one thing today, just from after this podcast, from listening, it would be to find a wall or a door frame or back of a door and just bring your heel off about an inch or two off that wall. Line up your hips, your shoulders, and your head as tall as you can on the wall. And then try to shift your weight over one leg, balance, come very slightly off the wall. Just again, so your hips, shoulders, and head are maybe that 2 inches, the same distance as your foot, and try to balance in that position. The goal with that is to give you a sense of, are you leaning onto the toes? Do you really have to come forward? Can you balance? And then after 10 seconds, lean back against the door, lean back against the wall, and see what touches. If you're like, oh, my shoulders hit, oh, now I have to bring my butt back and my head still hasn't hit, you've got a big issue and you're probably way off. We use that as a way to give people an awareness that where that alignment is, so they can feel the head over the shoulders, feel the shoulders over the hips, but everything should hit that wall at the same time. And it's about that awareness. It doesn't have to be massive exercise or workout. People aren't going to sweat doing the things we give them. And in fact, these exercises, we call them activities that they're doing, we want them to break it up throughout their day, because the more they activate their brain to feel these small muscles, the more they're going to start using them all the time. That being said, you will get your lower back activating really well. You will feel your shoulder blades dropping, so that these muscles that are constantly tight on people, they start to recognize, oh, I don't have to hold those all the time. They can actually learn to control that. And their hip gets a lot stronger because we're doing a lot of balance work. But that's the biggest problem, is it's really hard for people to fix it, because what they'll do in these exercises is go into the compensations thinking, oh yeah, I'm working on my posture, and they don't even know where it should be. So that's the hardest thing. And that's why I recommend using the wall or a door frame. It kind of gives a little bit of that sensory awareness, or a way to kind of test yourself to feel it and try to get that perfectly aligned and be like, if that feels weird to you, then you need to do something about it. So that's what I'd say for people to start working on. And like I said, go get those videos, because they're simple. Just do them. The videos will help get you aware of where you should be feeling it. So one of them, we have people laying face down when they bring their head up and back. If you've ever seen videos on YouTube where they say, oh yeah, you just got, tuck that chin here. Don't do those. Okay. I hate those, because you feel tension. You feel so much tension in your neck and traps. Like, that's not, posture isn't, oh, I went forward here and I just go back. What it does is it drops the head and it sticks the chin out. So what we need to do is think of a string holding your head up. So if I just hold a string up, this is what people do that have poor posture. They do this. What you need to do is think of lengthening the back of your head and then tuck the chin, so that it's like a J shape. So from the chin through my ear to the back of my head goes up and tucks back. So it'll naturally lift my chest, but I don't get this compression in the back of my neck and everything tensing up. It shouldn't do that. So that's what we work on laying face down. We lengthen the head, bring the ears back. And when you do it correctly, pulling behind your shoulders, you actually want to relax your chest and shoulders, and you'll feel it in the lower back. So that's the other one I would recommend, that they look at the video to help them. And if anybody has any questions, reach out to us. But that's a starting point for anybody wanting to feel their posture.
Well, Dr. Brett, thank you so much for joining us. How do we get more information? So if someone does notice, and when they're doing the test against the wall and realize, like, oh, I keep landing shoulder first, where do they go to find you?
Yeah, they can reach out to me. I'm not a big social media guy. The best place is to email me directly at drhill, Dr. Hill, at xperiencelife.ca. And that starts with X. So that's my clinic name. Our online program is yourpostureprogram.com. And then if you put in /videos, they can get those free videos. And you can also reach us there if you want email through that contact. But those are the best ways. Like I said, not really big on social media myself. I try to avoid using my phone too much and all that stuff. But that's the best way to reach out.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. Hopefully that can be a benefit, and hopefully people recognize like it is so much more impactful and powerful than they might think. Hopefully they take care of it now because, 5, 10 years down the road, it's a lot harder to fix.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thanks.